Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome to the first video of 2025. Happy New Year, and I hope that you guys all had a great 2024. In today's video, we will be discussing the potential for major snowstorms across the eastern half of the United States. So be sure to stay tuned through the whole video so that you don't miss your forecast. And of course, be sure to like and subscribe. I am looking forward to continue growing the channel in 2025, and that of course takes all of us to do. Alright, now without further ado, let's get right into it here. Starting off here with our oscillation indexes, right? The two famous ones that I like to look at here on the channel are the North Atlantic Oscillation Index on the left and the Pacific North American Oscillation on the right. Now, the NAO, right, when it's typically in its negative phase, right, and it basically means below that zero line that you see there. Generally speaking, that means we're going to see colder and potentially snowier times in the eastern part of the United States and the central part of the United States. And you can see while we have been in a positive phase for a little while here, we are starting that downtrend. We've actually been in that downtrend for about a week now. And it's supposed to be in its negative phase over the next, say week or so. I mean, it's already there, but I mean, it's going to really stay in that negative phase over the next week, maybe even 2 weeks. Now on the right side, the Pacific North American has been in a positive phase, right? And in its positive phase, that's where we get the cold blast, just like with the negative NAO. So of course, we've seen that above the zero line, and that's the primary reason we're seeing what we're seeing. That we're going to be talking about in this video. But you can see here, it's going to continue that upward trend through, the middle of the month. So right now we have a positive NAO and a positive PNA, but if we have a negative NAO and a positive PNA combining, which could happen over the next 2 weeks, that could really set the stage for even more of what we're going to see, coming up in the next few days that I'm going to be showing you guys in this video. So here we have the Climate Prediction Center. Real quick, going to get into the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook so you can see what I'm talking about. Cold for the eastern half of the United States, warm for the west coast. While some drier times are forecast from the period of January 7th to the 11th across, say, the northeast, the south, central, right? That doesn't mean we're not going to have an occasional storm like we're going to be talking about here. Notice the west coast also could be pretty dry during this period. Basically, the middle of the country, the very southeastern tips of the United States could see those above average precipitation develop here over that time period. So here's the 8 to 14 day outlook, and you can see again more of the same. Again, this is the January 9th through the 15th. Eastern half of the United States, right, below average temperatures. Western half, or western third, I guess you could say, would be above average. And again, same kind of thing. Maybe some below average precip, but some above average precip in the middle of the country, in the very southeast corner of the U.S., and of course, and Alaska. Can't forget that. And then we have the drier times there for the west coast. But again, that does not mean that if you're in these drier, and remember, these colors only mean around a 40% chance, right? Anywhere from 33 to 50% chance of seeing below average temperatures. So that doesn't mean it's set in stone, or precipitation, excuse me. So it's not set in stone. Now, let's get into the models here, starting off with the GFS. We can see this storm coming in right here. That's the main one we're going to be talking about in this video. Right, it's going to develop over the central part of the United States, trek its way onto the east, and with it, it's going to be bringing a lot of snow, particularly from the central plains all the way over to the east coast, the mid-Atlantic region especially, basically in that zone. So here's the first little batch across the mid-Atlantic, and then again, right in this zone here, we're going to be seeing snow, ice, and everything in between, all right, across this area. And again, look at the low pressure, around 1,000 millibars. It's going to remain relatively strong as it makes its trek to the east. And of course, some moderate to heavy snow coming along with it. All right, so again, this will be mainly Sunday across the central plains, Ohio Valley, and then maybe late Sunday into Monday for the mid-Atlantic and the east coast. But do keep an eye on that pink because we're going to be seeing some areas of ice as well. Now, if we take a look at our next system across the south, so this is going to be right after. So this is January 8th, it's the Wednesday through Friday, the January 10th. Right now, this is a little bit far out. I mean, it's only about a week out though, so it's not that far out, but it's relatively far out. But you can see potentially a low pressure moving across the Gulf Coast, and with the cold air left over from the last system, maybe some snow and ice anywhere from Texas to Georgia. So this is another one to keep an eye on. So these are all the storms that I'm going to be talking about here in this video. So GFS giving us two regions really to watch. That would be, the southeast to south central, as well as the central plains, Ohio Valley, and to the east coast. So these are the two primary areas to watch. Now, if we take a look here at the snowfall totals, according to the GFS model, right, you can see here, again, maybe double-digit snowfalls from Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and maybe feet of snow in the Appalachian Mountains, and maybe some intense snowfall, maybe 6 to 10 towards the mid-Atlantic coastline. Now, I don't think it's going to get that high, but I do think, 3 to 6, 4 to 8, and maybe even a bit higher for any of these zones is not out of the question. And I do think back towards, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, you guys could definitely hit double-digit snowfall totals. I would say around 10 to 12 inches is my personal forecast for that zone. Again, could go higher in some spots, but I think 20 inches is a little out of the question for now, as of this point, just because the storm's going to be relatively fast-moving. In other words, it's going to be like a 24-hour event or less. So there's not really enough time. So in order to get 20 inches of snow, you basically need an inch of snow every single hour throughout the entirety of the event with no breaks. So it's going to be pretty hard to achieve, but we'll definitely see how things play out. Of course, we do know there's heavier snow bands that could get involved as well. Now, for that storm system I was just showing you in the south, in Texas, the GFS widespread 6 to 12 with even bands of a foot plus. Now I'm just going to come out of the gate here and say that is very bullish, right? And again, I'm not doubting a couple inches or a few inches of snow, particularly in the inland areas. The Gulf Coast, with how warm the water is, very hard to get snow down there. But inland where the cold air is, right, from that other system, cold air is going to be coming down like this. It's going to be in place in the interior, right? And of course, if we remember 2021, I think it was February, we had that snow and ice storm in Texas. So, definitely not out of the question to have cold air like this, but the probability of getting double-digit snowfall totals, right, even into Louisiana, is pretty low at this point in time. But something to keep an eye on. Now, European model. Here comes the system originating again over the Central Plains through Sunday, and then Monday it's on the East Coast. The European maybe has it lasting a little bit longer, maybe for areas such as, the East Coast as well. You can see again, area of ice, snow forming, maybe arrives, early Monday, maybe continuing through Monday afternoon in the East, maybe most of the day most of the day Sunday for areas in here, in the Central Plains and the Ohio Valley. And again, just keep it on the low pressure, right? It basically goes due east, similar strength to the GFS model and similar track as well at about 1,000 millibars of pressure. And you got a track basically across, Kentucky, Virginia, due east, and then exiting off the East Coast. But again, some darker blues are in there, right? Maybe, leaving the chance for some snow or some heavier snow. And of course, you see those dotted blue lines getting all the way down here towards the end. I'll let it play one more time so you can see right here. That's the cold air that's going to be advancing behind that storm system. So if something were to take shape in the south, maybe the cold air could support it. All right, so here is the European model snowfall totals, right? Again, this to me seems more realistic, right? Like we got this band from Illinois to Delaware, New Jersey of 6 to 12 inches, which again is a bit on the higher side, and especially for areas in the east. I think this is more plausible for areas out in the Midwest. Right, but maybe if the cold air is going to support it on the East Coast, if there's enough moisture, feeding in off the water, you could certainly get some more snow in the east from this as well, right? Now, do keep in mind, unlike the GFS, this was the 10-to-1 snow to liquid ratio. That's what's available in the European model. Now, Kuchera ratios, right? The Kuchera ratio for this particular system, because there's going to be a good amount of cold air, is going to be higher than 10-to-1. So the totals might actually be higher than what you see here because of those higher snow to liquid ratios. But of course, any area in the zone could exceed double-digit snowfall. And again, central Illinois through Indiana, southern Ohio. Again, the Appalachian Mountains could see a bit more in West Virginia, and then to the East Coast, Delaware, New Jersey as well. And just to show you in the south, again, European model doesn't really have much happening except maybe up in the Texas Panhandle, we get a couple inches or a few inches of snow. And actually, they have a bit of snow down by Houston, which again, I really doubt that's going to happen. Like I said, if any snow were to happen, it would be, like in this region, but probably not Houston, but it's interesting that they're actually pointing that out. Now let's take a look here at the Canadian model. So again, here we go, 1,000 millibars of pressure. The load's going to basically track due east, and they actually have it getting a little stronger as it exits the East Coast, right? The track is a bit further to the north as well, so maybe that zone of snow will shift to the north. Right, so you can see right as it exits here, 995 millibars of pressure. So maybe it does a bit more strengthening as it exits the East Coast. So maybe more wind impacts, maybe some more intense bands of snow, right? All benefit from a stronger system here. You can see, let's let it play again. You can see, if we take a look at the time frame here, again, Sunday morning across the Central Plains, late Sunday into early Monday, for the Ohio Valley, and then very late Sunday and the most of Monday for the mid-Atlantic states, right? It's like Virginia through PA, Delaware, right? Maryland, Jersey, all places that's the extent east that we can see this thing. So it's going to be a pretty big swath of snowfall. And of course, we have to talk about that area of ice that's going to be forming. So I'll let it play here. You can see again, sleet, ice, basically from southern Missouri through Kentucky, West Virginia. Basically where the track of that low is probably the best way to explain where the ice is going to be. Like where the track of the low is, or just to the north of it, right? But basically along that track is where you're going to see most of your ice. Right? And then again, maybe a little storm system. Now they have the snow getting really far south on this one. It's not inland like the GFS had it. They actually had it closer to the coastline with the snowfall there. And this is again Wednesday into Thursday on the Canadian model. But let's take a look at the snowfall totals. Feet of snow potentially from the lake effect up in New York and PA out in the top corner there. But still, again, from the Ohio Valley and Plains all the way to the east towards the East Coast, we can see areas of 6 to 12 inches of snow, especially in those pink colors, and those red colors maybe over 12 inches, and in those orange colors over 2 feet. Then maybe some snow down the maybe down the Smoky Mountains as well. So again, expect, I would say, 3 to 6, 4 to 8, with many areas getting some double-digit snowfall totals depending on where those snowfall bands set up. Now, if we look towards the south central, again, a few inches of snow even at the coastline, but again, because the Gulf of Mexico is always so warm, it's in the 60s, 70s. I doubt the snowfall will get that close because the towns are going to be, the coastal towns will be warmed up by the water, especially when there's a southerly flow. But if the cold air really gets down there enough, it is a possibility, but it's very unlikely that much snow will get that far south. Maybe even New Orleans and even the Florida Panhandle and southeast Georgia could even get a couple inches of snow, according to the Canadian model. Again, do I think it's going to happen? No, this is still like 8 days out, but definitely something to keep an eye on. It just goes to show how far south this cold air and this polar vortex will really get. Alright, so thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Stay tuned for future updates. Thank you guys so much for watching. I am the Weather Dude signing off till next time, and I will catch you guys in the next video.